Round 1. Fight.
Heroes never die.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Power, sex, power. They both come down to one thing.
Hungry gamers.
Hello, and welcome everyone to the 322nd episode of the Hungry Gamers podcast. We are powered by ATEBIT.net and those sexy audio-based legends over at Audio Technica. Go and upgrade your audio game today at audiotechnica.com. I'm your extremely humble host, Brendan White. You can find me just about everywhere at Brendan8bits. And joining me today, as is tradition, my podcast Ride or Die, the King Boot and my King Bob-omb. You can find her on them socials at Miss Allie Hart. Miss Allie Hart, how the bloody hell are ya?
I'm doing good, feeling positive on this episode. Pretty excited to finally talk about things that I've actually watched. I'm actually up to date with the norms of what people are watching lately. So I'm actually excited to participate in the conversation. It's so sad. It is so sad. I'm usually so far behind, but I'm able to actually be one with the kids.
That's it. It's great to have you here on the front lines with me today and talking about the things that the kids are feeling is all the rage and all the rave right now. Mm-hmm. So I guess I might throw it over to you first and foremost to talk about a movie that I mentioned a little bit last week, just to get your thoughts and feelings on before we deep dive on something we've collectively checked out this week. So John Wick 4, what do you think?
Yeah, it was good. It was very, very good. Obviously, I'm going to try my best not to get into spoiler territory, but it was a good movie. There are things in it that I maybe probably ain't so positive on that everyone else is. There are some amazing set pieces and cinematography work that are just absolutely breathtaking, and someone involved in that movie just did a lot of work and a lot of attention to detail and just made some absolutely stunning pieces of art in that movie. The action, it was action. The thing I am going to say, and I know this is going to be very rich, saying it about a John Wick movie, there was too much fighting, I think.
Too much fighting. Too much wickery.
Too much wickery. I'm only going to say this in the sense that I enjoy the fight scenes in like most action films, obviously well done and stylized, and there's a lot of work and a lot of effort that goes into choreographing a fight scene and obviously everyone involved in it. So I'm not going to try and downplay that. However, when you have so many, it kind of all just, in my mind, kind of started blending into each other, and I think it kind of lost its spectacle, and it just kind of numbed me out on how much fighting and like how much fight scenes were in it, and it just kind of I lost its wow factor to me. There were some great ones in there, but after a while I was kind of like, okay, another fight, all right, like, and then they went on for quite a long time as well. So just for me personally, I think it kind of did a negative for me. So, but like overall, it was a good movie. It was good. I enjoyed it. Obviously, yes, it did go for quite some time. Maybe it wouldn't have gone for so long if maybe some of the fight scenes were cut down just a little bit. But overall, I agree with the consensus that it was a good movie.
It's it's very exhausting, that movie, like, and not in the way that you watch it and you go, oh my God, it went for so long. I can't believe that movie dragged. It was just like you said, it was poor old Johnny Wick. He's just going from fight to fight to fight. And it's cool, but yeah, like there isn't much time to breathe in between those scenes. And some of the scenes look awesome. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm just going to say there's this one fight scene where it's shot from above and it's just like single camera panning through certain rooms as a fight's going on. Mm-hmm. Amazingly shot, like you said, Ayla. Like the cinematography is just great. But yeah, it is a lot. Poor old Johnny Dubs. By the end of it, you can see why he's so damn tired, because he's just fought for like, I guess in real time, like several days in a row.
Yeah.
So. But it's really good. It's really pretty to watch.
Yeah.
And Something else that I think is pretty to watch, and this episode, listeners, it's going to be a little bit of a tighter one with a shorter focus on just a few key news-based hit points, but we're going to be diving deep on a little bit of a spoiler-free review because, Ali and myself have both managed to get out and check out the Super Mario Bros. Movie in the cinema this week. Yeah. So, Miss Hart, I'm going to throw the microphone straight over to you. Let's go spoiler-free. Let's go as deep as you want on this one. Tell me your thoughts about the Super Mario Bros. Movie.
As a video game fan and a person that's very familiar with the franchise, I had a lot of fun. This movie felt like a fan-made movie, just with an amazing budget and a lot of talented people coming together to make it, and a lot of fantastic actors and voice actors and musical set pieces just coming together to make this wonderful spectacle. I do agree with the consensus that there is no substance in this movie. Plot-wise, there really isn't like some, deep story. There's a lot of dead spaces and just like not a lot of elaborating, which I could understand to a fan base. We don't really want that because we know that. However, I know that this movie has been getting a lot of flack from the critics, I guess, saying very much the same, that it's just a nothing movie. And I could see why, like, if you're not a fan, if you don't know anything about the Nintendo franchise, I should say Nintendo because it's not just Mario, but I could see how this would just possibly just fall flat and just look like a shiny movie. But yeah, for us fans, it's a lot of fun. The amount of nods, Easter eggs, little mentions, and just everything that they throw in there. Some are just like right in your face, and other ones are just so subtle that if you could just blink or just miss it. But it was a fun ride, and yeah. So if you are a fan, I'm definitely saying that you should definitely check it out. Yeah,
I was smiling through the entirety. Like, it only runs for 92 minutes, which I can also appreciate. It was a nice, tight, condensed runtime. It didn't sort of get too bloated, but also having a nice, tight, condensed runtime, it means we don't get a ton of depth to the story. We don't get a ton of depth or exploration to a lot of the characters. It's pretty much just the Mario, Peach, and Bowser show for the most part. Like, yeah, we've got Luigi and Toad, but Luigi's sort of out of the periphery for the most part. He has a couple of great moments, especially near the end of the film. I'm not going to say what or why, but there is some good moments there where you sort of do a little bit of a fist bump for certain characters. But for the most part, it's very light on narrative, where a couple of plumbers, Brooklyn-based underdogs, sort of, I guess, for the most part, the bad word to describe them as, but they're sort of, I guess, a bit loserish. The family doesn't respect them. They're not having much success. They're just going out on their own to try and make it big in the world of plumbing. They get transported to the Mushroom Kingdom. They have to then, save the Mushroom Kingdom and I guess the broader universe, because Bowser's just doing Bowser things and being an evil dragon with a turtle shell on his back. And, the hijinks ensue from there. And there's a couple of cool set pieces. But overall, the movie isn't, it ain't no Schindler's List. It ain't nothing like to that depth as far as character exploration or just, the weight of the story. But yeah, I really enjoyed myself. I went on the Wednesday night, which was sort of the official opening night here in Australia. And I'm assuming the cinema for you was probably just as packed as it was for me, with lots of families and kids as well. And like, you can hear the families and the kids like cheering, or even like there's a group of like kids in the row behind us, and they couldn't have been any more than 10 years old, but like every little Easter egg that popped up, they'd be like, oh, that's that from this, or that's that character. Like the knowledge that these little buggers had about everything to do with Mario, like, I was very impressed. Like, they were picking up on some things that I missed, and we literally grew up with these characters from birth just about, but these kids that are late to it knew it to like another level. So it was very admirable. There was a few times where I wanted to turn around like, shut the fuck up, I'm trying to watch the movie, I don't want to hear about your things. But like, it was really fun, and everyone in my viewing had a great time. It was one of those eye roll moments at the end when the credits rolled, the audience applauded, which always makes me laugh. because it's like the guy in the back or the girl in the back that's
On
press
the projector.
play on the projector, he or she don't care very much, but I guess appreciates that they admired the effort they put in to get that movie going. But yeah, it was fun. Like, I had a really good time with it. Like, as I said, it didn't go too long. It was just bam, bam, bam. There was a bit of a Super Mario Bros. Greatest Hits going on. Like you mentioned, a lot of little Easter eggs and reference. So you're like, haha, like Leonardo DiCaprioing in the seat the whole time. But it was enjoyable. And I've got to say, like, even though when this was first announced and they announced the voice cast and we were like, Chris Pratt as Mario? What? The second this movie started and we jumped into, Mario or Chris Pratt's shoes and all these other characters' shoes, I'm like, okay, I'm digging this. Chris Pratt, I can see you as Mario. I'm appreciating your work here. Same with Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Day, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key, Seth Rogen, etc., etc. Like, the voice cast was great. One thing I will say on the voice cast, though, it felt like they've sort of like almost like auto-tuned or just like changed Keegan-Michael Key's voice's tone a lot. Like, I didn't get any Keegan-Michael Key in his vocal delivery, but everyone else that was cast in this film, I thought did really well with the script that they had to play with.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't know how Keegan was doing the voice, but if listen to a few interviews that he's done, and he actually can do the high pitched voice.
Oh, okay.
So I definitely think with a lot of the characters here, there were definitely pitching. I think there were definitely a lot of manipulation in voice work just so that they can alter it. I know that there was a lot of people mentioning that Donkey Kong is just Seth Rogen, but it works.
Yeah, I ain't sad about it. I was, especially when you hear the Seth Rogen laugh,
Yeah.
I was losing it every time I heard the Seth Rogen laugh. Like, I'm like, yes, this is the best.
Yeah, I had no problem with it. It worked for me and it made sense. It just fit the character perfectly. And if it does that, then you don't need to change it. I am going to say, though, I don't know if it's spoilers. They've kind of mentioned it now on social media, but I still won't say much about it. But there is something that Bowser does, actually technically twice in this movie, and it stopped sounding like Bowser and sounded like Jack Black. And that to me was a very obvious change in like character voice, and it did kind of put me out of it. Like, I was like, oh, okay, that was a choice. That was kind of strange. So I like, in regards to voice work, I will mention that, but I was finding it difficult at the start to get used to Chris Pratt as Mario, and like hearing, I could just hear Chris Pratt for some reason. And I don't know if that was just me, like if it was a subconscious thing that I was purposely looking out for it, but it was only until more of the supporting cast kind of came into it and like all the characters surrounding, that's when I kind of just stopped listening to him and paying attention to everyone around and how amazing they were doing. So I think the overall casting work for this did really, really well. So
yeah, the cast was great, and like the Jack Black thing you mentioned, like, I'll say what it is. Like, I don't think it's spoilery by saying that Jack Black sings a couple of things in the film. I'm not going to talk about the context as to why, but like, yeah, there was moments where Jack Black, who obviously lends his voice to Bowser, he does really well in that role. But yeah, there's moments where it just goes from Bowser to peak 90s, early 2000s Jack Black / Tenacious D, and like, I enjoyed it, but yeah, it does sort of feel like he's stepping out of Bowser's shoes or Bowser's claws or whatever into his own in there, and it was fun and it was great. I love me some Jack Black. He's a great quirky, caricature of a human being, and he commits to the role. But yeah, there is a little bit of a disconnect in those two parts, and they I've noticed with the movie, they like going back to a similar well repeatedly in the movie itself. Something they didn't go back to the well with repeatedly, though, was the broader soundtrack. They had a couple of absolute bangers on the soundtrack of this movie. Very, very surprising that we heard, things like AC/DC pop up in here and stuff for a Super Mario Brothers film. But it was really enjoyable. 92 minutes felt like a perfect amount of time. I wouldn't have been sad if we had an extra maybe 10 to 15 to give a little bit more depth or backstory to a few of the characters. There was a lot of rushed set pieces just to get us to that final end goal or end battle or end crisis that they had to work through. So it was good. It didn't overstay its welcome. It's going to make an absolute absurd amount of money. This movie is going to, like, it's already generated, I think, over 100 million at the box office already. This thing is going to be huge. They're going to make so many spin-offs of this movie. They're already talking about potentially a film focusing on, Donkey Kong Country and have Seth Rogen as the lead. Charlie Day has sort of voiced his opinion that he'd happily do like a Haunted Mansion type of spin-off with Luigi. I'm assuming we'll get a Super Mario Bros. 2 movie. There's a lot that they could sort of canvas from this universe, because obviously this is a 4 decades plus franchise. There's a lot of history and a lot of games and story to sort of potentially pull from and explore a little bit more. So yeah, I feel we're going to be getting a few more of these movies over the coming years. And even though when it was announced, me personally, I was very skeptical. I thought, oh no, this is going to be bad. I watched it and I'm like, it's bad from, I guess, like a pure storytelling perspective where there's not a ton of depth. But overall, I had a good time. I enjoyed it. Great popcorn film. The animation was really well done by Illumination and Universal, and then in collaboration with Nintendo. I really liked what Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic, who directed the film. They're the two sort of co-creators of Teen Titans Go, which is also an animated show, which I'm a big fan of as far as the tone and just the pacing and styling. So it had a little bit of a nod to that in some of the writing. But yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. I wished a few other characters got a little bit more screen time. But overall, I think it set out to achieve a goal, and that was just make a fun, enjoyable movie that kids and adults will enjoy, and it feels that way. It's currently like 46 on Metacritic, which I think is way too aggressively low. Like, I feel that this is a solid 7, 8 out of 10 for me. Like, it ain't perfect, but it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a conundrum for me because I'm a constant complainer of movies going too long. And I'm also a constant complainer of, media really elaborating and focusing on things a little bit too much. So this is like on the other end of the scale where it went quite kind of short, but then I felt like I could see a lot of cuts. Like I could actually see where maybe they like either cut content or completely shorten content just to make it fit in a runtime. There are a lot of moments where I'm kind of like, oh, okay, that's it. That's okay. Yep. All right. We're just moving on to the next thing and the next thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. So I don't know if they were just trying to fit a number of references in a certain amount of time or what the overall decision was. So I'm happy it was a short movie. I'm kind of happy that they didn't try to overly explain everything. I just think there may have been a few different editing choices on certain scenes where it was just too abrupt to understand why that was okay, like, or why choices were made or a conversation even took place, really. But yeah, the references alone, like you said, you heard kids, so we went to a later viewing because we didn't want kids because, petty adults. So we went to a later viewing. We went to one of those expensive expensive cinemas where you can recline your chair, you get cocktails and everything like that. So we purposely did all that because we're grown-ass nerd adults. And I know I made a few noises because I saw references to things that I love. There's a jump scare, and that's all I'm going to say. I didn't anticipate that I was actually going to get jump scared in this, but I did. Something from my youth resurfaced in this movie, and it was quite terrifying. But yeah, I can't be heavily negative on this movie because for all the little nitpicking things that I'm saying right now, and it seems very pathetic considering this is a family kids movie, so I think overall I would give it like a 7 or 8 because in the long run I enjoyed it. So, but in the same sense, for anyone that said that they don't like it and they're not a gamer or they don't know the references, I wouldn't be mad at them either because I'd understand why. So
yeah, And I guess the good thing with that sort of tighter plot line, someone that doesn't get the references, they don't sort of hang around too long on the screen for them to dwell on it. It's just like, there it is. All right, now on to the next thing. So there's not enough time for it to marinate and people get confused. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good time. Like, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed myself watching this movie, and maybe the energy in the cinema elevated it further as well, because everyone was having a great time. Like,
Yeah.
young, old, everywhere else in between, everyone in that cinema was right along for that ride, and yeah, it was awesome. And hearing some Beastie Boys in Super Mario Bros.
That was pretty great.
That was great. And I liked. I won't sort of go spoilers, but I like when they were transitioning, and you can see it in some of the trailers as well. Where they transition from sort of a 3D camera to like the 2D plane, where it's sort of the throwback straight to the original games, where it's just a side-scrolling, action platformer, and you're jumping and doing all that. I liked some of that transition work with the camera, I guess you'd say, because there is a point of reference from where this camera's shooting. So
Yeah,
I like that, but it was very pretty. Like, it was very vibrant, and the color pop was huge. The kingdoms were diverse, and yeah, it was a greatest hits of Super Mario Bros. And I feel we're just getting started with this cinematic universe now, because there is going to be many on the way. And also shout out to Mario not enjoying the taste of mushrooms, because I can completely relate to that. I enjoyed that realism there.
So same with my husband. He totally understood and felt empathetic to Mario.
Yeah, but no, it's super fun. Do yourselves a favor, go check it out. If you're going solo, you're taking family, you're taking a partner, it's going to be great for everybody involved. Everyone's going to have a good time, and yeah, get along to the cinema. Hopefully you're having a great Easter long weekend. For people in majority of the world. I realize that other parts of the globe celebrate Easter the week after, which is interesting. Some countries in Europe. So yeah, enjoy Easter. Check out Super Mario Bros. Movie. Super fun, really well done, great animation, great soundtrack, great voice work, which is the biggest surprise, and great money earner for Illumination Nintendo, because this thing gonna be big.
Fingers crossed for me. That's one of my hot takes.
Yeah. One quick question though, on the topic of this movie, did you enjoy this more than Sonic?
Ooh, that's a good one. Shit.
So I know you're the resident, you're the Sonic gal as opposed to the Nintendo gal.
It's on the level for me, because for the runtime and maybe a little over explanation or a lot of lingering onto plot points that I don't like with Sonic, there was still a lot of moments where there was a story, there was development, there was growth, there was like a lesson to learn, I guess, in that movie, where as Mario was a movie where it was like references per second, but not a substance underneath. I guess the real because my answer for both would technically be I don't really have a lot of rewatch value in either one. So I don't know. This is kind of difficult. And it's kind of bad because Mario is still fresh in my mind. So I guess I am leaning more towards Mario in that I just recently experienced it and had a great time. But I don't know. Maybe it would have been different if I had watched both mutually. But I mean, they're both good for their respective franchises. Let's just say that.
That's it. They're similar but different. Like, we've got Sonic, which is blending real world environments, real world actors with animated Sonic and characters from that universe, where this is just a purely animated film where we're seeing Brooklyn and parts of America, but from an animated lens wholly and solely. So yeah, there's no very handsome Prince-esque James Marsden roaming around Super Mario Bros. Movie, but yeah, they're both good. They're both very different, but they're both having lots of success, and yeah, we're going to see more sequels to come from both franchises. That I have no doubt. But yeah, Super Mario Bros. Movie, it sounds like it's officially 8-bit approved here. We are giving it that sexy Tyrannosaurus Rex shaped rubber stamp here. do yourselves a favor, go check it out, get yourself some popcorn, maybe a choc top, and some soda, and have a great time. And when you're done having a great time there, you can have an even greater time over at ko-fi.com/weare8bit. If you want to support us monetarily, you can do so over there from the low price of $1 per month. If you want to get some merchandise, you can do so over at shop8bit.net. If you want to check out the hub for all things 8-bit, you can go to videogamesandculture.com. But Miss Hart, let's jump into this.
This week's news headlines. Presented by Audio-Technica.
As we did mention, listeners, we are keeping this episode nice and tight and lean. And the first bit of news here, Sony has registered a patent for a controller that could change temperature as a result of player actions and gameplay. The patent, which was reported on by Xputer, describes a number of conceptual controller features that would enrich haptic experiences with the help of a soft,
elastically deformable.
Elastically deformable. Miss Hart coming in clutch there. Elastically deformable. That one threw me. So an elastically deformable sensor component. When placed, for example, on the front of a pad, the sensor would detect when the player deforms the controller by pressing, twisting, rubbing, or crushing it. This is getting dangerous. The patent also described the inclusion of a temperature controller apparatus that would allow it to make the accessory hotter or colder depending on player input and likely the gameplay situation. For example, the temperature control apparatus may be controlled such that the larger the amount of deformation, the higher the temperature becomes, reads the patent. This allows the user to feel the temperature change corresponding to deformation. The document also describes the potential of using a combination of magnetic fluid and electric or magnetic fields to change the shape and hardness of the soft pads of the theoretical controller. So Miss Hart, Sony's getting way out in the weeds as far as conceptual ideas here, potentially for further immersion and interaction with your controller. But elastically deformable, we've got temperature-based functions going on here. You can press, twist, rub, or crush. My goodness gracious, people are going to be needing a cigarette after playing with this controller for a while.
And a Gatorade. I don't know how effective making a controller, maybe cold works, but not hot. Like, I don't know how many people are out there like me, but sometimes when you're on the controller and games are getting pretty crazy, I get the sweaty palms. I get the, the heated sweaty hands, and then you're just constantly rubbing your hands on your pants to try and get that grip back on your controller. So I'm not too sure if adding heat is the best option for some of us out there, but I do respect and appreciate that Sony is still constantly thinking and evolving how we experience video games. I'm sure once upon a time, if someone sold this to us way back when, maybe even in the 90s or whatever, and we'd be like, what the hell? This is just crazy talk. It's just a video game. But haptic feedback on the PlayStation controller, which I didn't necessarily think too much of when they originally announced it, and only until I experienced it, I was completely wrong. It was it's such an amazing addition to the experience. Just having that resistance in certain games, like just drawing a bow and having that resistance in that experience is just, it's so short and such a brief feeling, but it just adds, and it's so I can't be angry at this. Add heat, add cold, add softness or whatever, but I'm sure they're going to prove me wrong, and it's just going to make the gaming experience even better.
Yeah, Sony, where I'm unapologetically a big Xbox fan, love Sony as well, and I love the feeling of an Xbox controller in my hands, but what Sony are doing from a technological standpoint is so far ahead of all the other sort of players that they're sort of competing against, your Xbox, your Microsoft, etc. They're just on another path. Like the DualSense controller, like you said, Ali, the real tension you can feel in the triggers when you're taking shots or drawing a bow, little things like that. Even just encompassing the microphone and the speaker through the DualSense controller, the various levels of haptic feedback, it is just taking that immersion to another level. And now we've got this potential crazy ass controller that they're working on. Maybe it will come out, maybe it won't. It makes me very curious. And it's funny, the first game I thought about when I'm reading some of these words and the ways this controller works, I'm like, is this a Scorn controller? Is that what this is?
No.
Where we're like squelching and putting our hands in things and rubbing? And that's what I thought. I'm like, maybe not, because that's a little bit too dark and heavy for Sony. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. If some of these features and functions do eventually see the light of day, it's going to take that gameplay experience to another level. The hot and cold thing, you know, I'm pretty neutral on that, especially when you mention, you know, when you're having a pretty intense gaming session, yeah, the old palms, as Eminem can reference, you know, they get sweaty, and you don't want to be dealing with that with vomit on your sweater already at the same time. So it's going to be risky. Yeah, it's risky, but the fact that there could be like a deformable, movable button is very interesting to me. But it feels like too, some of these controllers, they are getting a little bit more fragile as far as they've got so much smarts in them. It means there's more parts that can break down or fail. Like we're seeing, like the Switch controllers are the king, you know, the drift and everything else that happens on them little buggers. So knowing that there's this potential sensor that can be pressed, twisted, rubbed, and crushed, it feels like that thing needs to be made out of adamantium to ensure that it ain't going to break. But with all that kind of aggressiveness and touching and interaction, it feels like that's a component that would be getting replaced pretty often if this thing does ever come out, because, you know, people can aggressively rub things a little too hard and things can happen. So I'm worried about what will happen with this controller.
Yeah, I also see this in the direction of Sony also supporting VR and also trying to just make the experience of VR even more immersive. So props to them. Hope they work on it, and I hope they succeed, and it just, you know, evolves into an even better gaming experience for everyone.
Yeah, this could certainly have some good success in the more mature-based VR content. You know, I'll leave it at that. But let's move on to the next bit of news. And we referenced this little blue hedgehog just earlier in our Super Mario Bros. Film review there. So the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog has officially crossed 1 million downloads and has become one of Steam's highest rated games ever. Sonic the Hedgehog's social media manager took to Twitter to share the news, saying over 1 million of you have grabbed the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's currently the number 61 from a highest rated game perspective on Steam of all time. Absolutely unreal. Thank you all so much, end quote. For those unfamiliar, The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog is a murder mystery / visual novel game that surprise launched on Steam just before April Fool's Day of 2023. In the game, which is free, might I add, it is Amy Rose's birthday and she's hosting a murder mystery party that has Sonic becoming the victim. However, things quickly start feeling a bit strange. It's then your job as a new character to interrogate Sonic's friends and to try to get to the bottom of this mystery on the train known as the Mirage Express. So I saw this pop up on the socials over that April Fool's Day period, and I just thought it was a piss take. As is tradition, a lot of these companies, they just go crazy with their April Fool's based jokes and new products and new releases, which are all fictitious. But this is a real game.
Yep.
It's a murder mystery. It's a visual novel. It sounds awesome. I'm actually hella intrigued and want to play this. I am yet to touch it, yet to download it. The great thing is it's free, so I'm not sad about that. There's no cost to get involved in this. But are you in? Are you going to be jumping in the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog and giving this a spin, or have you already done it?
I haven't yet. I need to give it a try, but I have to be honest. Like, I saw the announcement and just assumed it was like April Fool's, and it was just really detailed, and they were like really kind of getting into it and stuff. And I'm like, okay, clever. And it was only until a friend also posted it again, said, "Oh, have you played this?" And I'm like, it's an April Fool's, isn't it? Like, no, it's a real game. And I'm like, oh damn. So if it is free, then there's no harm in me giving it a try. I'm not really into visual novels. They tend to drag a little for me, but I might just give this one a try, because I mean, it's so unique and so silly for the franchise. But I mean, I guess you kind of have to play it to experience what it's really about.
Like, it's 2023, and I guess nothing is surprising anymore. Like, we've got a Sonic the Hedgehog murder mystery. We've got Chris Pratt playing Super Mario himself. Like, Yeah, the world doesn't make sense these days, Miss Hart. Everything is upside down. And something else that is also upside down and a bit of an eyebrow raiser, it's just the nostalgia tour this episode. We're going back to the well again here because Legendary Entertainment now holds the rights for live action film and television adaptations of Capcom's Street Fighter franchise. The company announced earlier this week, all projects from Legendary will be developed in conjunction with Capcom. And this week's announcement didn't reveal any specific details, but there is an upcoming film in the works, and the production company has previously dipped its toe in the video game world with its Detective Pikachu movie. Legendary is also responsible for Dune, Enola Holmes, and the modern Monsterverse movies. So, we are getting another live-action adaptation of Street Fighter. There's no confirmation yet that Jean-Claude Van Damme is returning to the role of everyone's favorite American hero, Guile, but I'm very curious to see who they might cast, and I just wanted to throw that question over to you. Who do you think would be good to play one of the leads? You don't have to just focus wholly and solely on Guile. You could go Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Cammy, Bison, whoever. Who would you like to see cast in this new adaptation?
I think it's an easy bet, but it just works. But like Florence Pugh as Cammy, just kind of makes sense because like she's already been part of the Black Widow franchise, and she originally I think came from the UK. So it just kind of works, and she's a I don't know, she's a natural blonde, but she's more predominantly seen with blonde hair, so it just kind of works for me.
It's working for me too, thinking about it.
I think it's working
I've
for
got such a crush on Florence Pugh. My goodness.
She's quite adorable. That's one bet. I'm always worried though because there's a lot of characters, and plus I have such a soft spot for the original movie.
It's so bad, but I love it too for its badness.
Yeah, but I think we are now in a day and age where Street Fighter is a very popular franchise. So you know, I hope in making this they really think out of the box and have representation in actors who can play these roles and play these characters into their respective country of origin and just do it justice. There's really no reason why. So that's all I can hope for this movie.
Yeah, I feel like we did sort of talk glowingly about the film from the 90s. Like, it is a bad movie. Anyone that says otherwise is high. But, like, it's an enjoyable bad movie.
Yeah.
It's, you know, there's some funny moments. There's some weird creative decisions with what they do with some of the characters in the movie to just sort of shoehorn as many as they can in. But yeah, Florence Pugh as Cammy, I can firmly get behind that. As far as who to play with Ryo and Ken, I'm going to have to sort of dwell on that for a little while. I think if we get like someone playing Akuma, you need someone with a pretty sort of intense face. And I keep thinking of like Ron Perlman as Akuma. Like, I don't know if he'd be able to get that yoked in there, but he's got like Akuma's sort of face. I could picture him playing a bit more of a mature-based Akuma in this in this live action adaptation, because he's just got one of those faces that could be sort of almost like this demonic martial arts aficionado. So maybe see some Ron Perlman make their way in. As far as who plays like M. Bison and Sagat and Vega and stuff, I don't know.
Vega needs to be pretty. He is a pretty guy.
Yeah.
That's my one negative on the original movie is they made some older actor that he was a nice looking dude, but like Vega needs to be pretty. There's a reason why that man needs to wear a mask.
Yeah, he's always dashingly handsome.
He's protecting it. It's not so ugly he needs the mask. He's protecting something that is beautiful.
Yep. So we need to find the most handsome man around to play Vega. But listeners, what do you think? Who is your dream casting for the live action adaptation again of Street Fighter? We'll sort of kick this discussion going on to the socials, because I'd be very curious to see if we can come up with sort of a bit of a top tier billing as far as who we feel would be best to play these certain characters. I haven't done any Googling to sort of see what the internet is already saying. There would be plenty around, I'd imagine. But yeah, I'm very curious to see who's going to fall into which character's shoes or feet, because there is a lot of barefoot fighting. But
it really is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Curious to see who they focus on as far as the primary lead protagonist there, and I'm just assuming we're going to get some Bison Sagat and everything like that as far as your main big baddies. But yeah, I'm not sad about this. Like we mentioned, the film in the 90s, it was fine. It was enjoyable. It was eye-rolly. The animated films and the animated TV, like the anime series they've done off the back of Street Fighter, are really, really, really good watches. Yeah. So check that out too if you're hungry for some more Street Fighter lore. But yeah, I've got a Street Fighter film on the way, which is good news. Good news. Yeah. All right, other good news and other celebrations ties directly into Star Wars now. Overnight, we've just had the Star Wars celebration take place with a ton of announcements coming out of it. And we'll just sort of go through this bullet point style. So we've confirmed that Andor Season 2 is likely to be releasing in summer of 2024. That's US summer, so we're talking Australian winter of 2024. Filming is scheduled to be completed this coming August. They've confirmed that The Acolyte will be coming in 2024 on Disney Plus as well. That's going to be another TV series. We get a lot of new logos, a lot of static graphics on a lot of these films and TVs. TV announcements. They were talking more Mandalorian. There was a sneak peek at what's happening in the 7th episode of the latest season with some big spoilers and announcements. So just watch out if you want to try and avoid some spoilers there, because the internet is running rampant with that. They showed first looks and sort of behind the scenes sneak peeks for Skeleton Crew, which is slated to be dropping in 2023 on Disney Plus. And then we got the first trailer for Ahsoka, which is coming out in August of 2023. And that trailer, I was very excited to see not only some of the characters make their debut from animated to live action, but some of the references, some of the characters that we only see from certain positions, so we don't get to fully see them, but we see them. And I'm super hyped for Ahsoka there. So that was sort of the TV piece. And then if we shift to the film side for Star Wars, we've got movies that are going to be spanning over 9 eras. Dave Filoni is directing a movie which is going to culminate the Mandoverse-based events. We've got James Mangold directing a movie about the first Jedi called Dawn of the Jedi. And we also have Charmin Obaid-Chinoy's movie, which is going to be about a new Jedi Order. It's 15 years after Episode 9, and Daisy Ridley is returning as Rey for that one. And then to sort of close things out, we also got the final trailer for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is making its way to cinemas on June 30th. So some big announcements the last several hours here from a Disney perspective. A ton of new things to get excited about for Star Wars, because we've got like new trilogies coming out. We've got new standalone films. The James Mangold film sounds interesting, Dawn of the Jedi, because it's apparently set like thousands of years prior to anything that we've experienced so far. So it's going way back. It kind of scares me that one of the quotes that James Mangold said, he's like, it was like the 10 Commandments or something. I'm like, geez, we're going fucking biblical up in here now. I know there's religion heavily. Yeah. But it's kind of cool because we're getting some darker stuff, some funnier stuff, some in between. The Skeleton Crew show that they're talking about, they're saying it's very like inspired by the Goonies, and Jude Law is in that with a lot of like younger cast members, so it's going to be a little bit more family oriented. But the biggest one for me, outside of some new films coming and seeing Rey return, love me some Daisy Ridley. She's great in that role. That's awesome. But the trailer for Ahsoka got me hyped because there's a lot of stuff in there that I was like cheering for late last night when I watched that trailer. What's your feeling on all this stuff?
I'm a wet blanket. I'm a bit exhausted of all this Star Wars content and just constantly like pushing out more and more like Star Wars related stuff that I'm just over it. Like I just feel like we're just getting way too much and way too soon, and like it's feeling like the comic book movies where I'm just really caring less. And I don't know, like I can't say from my perspective, but like I don't know how other people are feeling, but I don't know if the quality is there as well. Like it's starting to, and I hate saying this, it's starting to feel less special. You know, it's feeling very mass produced and stuff. So I just hope that maybe by having already things in the works and like really focusing on stuff, maybe they'll allow other directors to make kind of different decisions on how they're going to bring the story across. That's why I'm not so mad about the Dawn of the Jedi. I'm hoping that is going to be just absolutely so far removed of everything in this, like the timeline that we are pretty used to seeing, that maybe it will just be a different feeling altogether. That's my biggest hope. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll just be exactly like everything else. But I'm also kind of excited for also the Old Republic and the High Republic kind of stuff as well. I guess some of that nasty Jedi stuff. That instead of them just always being the good for the most part. So yeah, but overall, I also love my favorite Jedi, Indiana Jones. Big fan of his work.
Yeah,
Star Wars universe.
It made me chuckle. It doesn't surprise me. Like, did it need to be thrown in the back end of that? Probably not, especially because it was just the final. Like, it wasn't a debut announcement. It wasn't a debut trailer. Like, we've known that this movie's been coming out for a while, and they've been steadily force feeding us trailers and information. But they just sort of tacked that on the back of it because everyone loves Indy and everyone loves Harrison Ford. But yeah, I like what you mentioned. It's great that we're getting out into the weeds and we're going as far away with some of this stuff from the Skywalker-based storytelling that they just seem to constantly love to go back to. So it's kind of cool that we're going to go way back and get an origin story. One of the quotes as far as some of the new content to come out that they're expecting, they sort of, the pitch that they initially did, it was like, it's Frozen meets Kill Bill for one of the films. And I'm like, what? I beg your pardon? But I'm like, I like both those franchises. Can you make that into a science fiction epic? I'm like, okay, I'm listening. But yeah, I completely agree with your statement too, that it's starting to feel a little watered down and a little less special. Like, even seeing a little bit of that, like, love The Mandalorian, love Pedro Pascal and what they're doing there, but some of those episodes are starting to feel a little weaker, a little watered down, a little just check the box to get us to the next plot point. There is some still awesome moments in this third season, but like, they're just like, fuck, we need to make another 8 episodes here to get us to this final result. What can we do to fill in there? What celebrity cameos can we find? Because they are just getting out of control with these celebrity cameos popping up in it now. Like, yeah, it's Disney doing Disney things, but yeah, it feels like it's cheapening the magic and the luster of Star Wars a little bit at times.
So I'm not up to date on The Mandalorian. However, because the internet, I know exactly what you're referencing. I've seen clips of what you're referencing from The Mandalorian. And the most accurate description of what that was or how it appeared was someone said, is this a Super Bowl Doritos commercial? And I just went, perfect. Oh my goodness, yes, that's exactly what this kind of feels like now. So yeah, and that's what it is. Like I like that term, like watered down, because, you know, like while the basis of all the cool stuff is there, it is definitely, it's not all Milo. There's a little bit more milk now in there than there is Milo, and it's just becoming less and less special.
Yeah, which is sad. Like, they can still prove us wrong by making some great content here. And, you know, like Andor sort of stands apart as far as the most recent Star Wars entries because it was great from start to finish. It was tonally very different. So if they can give us a couple of home runs amongst this other watered down stuff, then I'll accept it and I'll tolerate it. I'll complain about the bad stuff, but also praise the good stuff. But there's some stuff there to get excited about on the
sure,
way.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, a lot of these shows are coming out in 2023, so we've got a lot of Star Wars content coming at us at the back end of the year. The film's a little further back behind that, but yeah, Ahsoka's going to be great in August, Skeleton Crew later this year, and then next year it's gonna flow forever. Like, Star Wars is going to outlive us all, and you know, that's a good and a bad thing, I guess. Something else that is a good thing, if you don't want to wait until these Star Wars films come your way, don't worry, because we got you covered.
New releases and events.
All right, so we're obviously talking about releases dropping from the 10th of April through to the following week. And as far as things making their way to the podcasting place, we have our Resident Evil 4 Remake spoiler cast dropping right here on the THG RSS feed, so get that in your ear holes. It is an absolute marathon episode that goes for well over 2 hours and 20 minutes. It was funny, optimistically, we're like, we're going to try and make this one a nice tight runtime, hour or so, and then 2.5 hours later, there we are, still barely scratching the surface on RE4. But hell of a listen there. Obviously, the first half of that is spoiler-free, so if you get to play the game, you can listen along, hit pause, go play the game, come back and get the full experience. As far as things coming out on the small screen, we've got Renovation Season 1 making its way to Disney+, as well as Auntie Donna's Coffee Cafe, which obviously Auntie Donna's, those guys are just going from strength to strength to strength here, not only locally across Australia, but abroad. Like, these guys are starting to pop off.
Yeah.
I find them funny sometimes. Other times I'm just like, I don't get it. But you know what? The rest of the world gets it, and they're doing great. So kudos to them. We've also got the final season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and that is making her way to Prime Video this week as well. So that's another show. I'm yet to really check it out, but it's getting a lot of positive press. Have you watched any of that one as well, or no?
No, I haven't. Some people have recommended it to me, so maybe it has to go on the pile. But I know that it's got a very popular fan base. I think some of our listeners are big fans of it. So.
And if you wanted to get that cinema experience into your veins this week, we've got a couple of movies. One very interesting one called Mafia Mama with Toni Collette as the lead there. Looks like a time. And then the other one is an animated film called Suzumi, and that is the latest film entry by Makoto Shinkai, who's most known for hits such as Your Name, which is, I think, one of the third highest grossing anime film of all time. And then he's followed that up with Weathering with You. And Suzumi is his 7th film in his very fabled career. So if it's anything like Your Name or even Weathering with You, it's going to be a very big, emotional, romantic, heartbreaking, beautiful journey. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. As far as games coming out this week, we've got Sherlock Holmes The Awakened, which is a remake making its way to just about every platform. We've got Tron Identity making its way to Switch and PC. Hearthstone Festival of Legends expansion, which is dropping 145 new cards to the collection, coming out this week. Ghostwire Tokyo making its way to the Xbox after that 12-month exclusivity period with Sony has lapsed. And the last one, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, coming to PlayStation, Switch, and PC. So plenty of games, plenty of things to do this coming week. Miss Hart, that brings us to the end, officially, of episode 322 of THG. Anything else you want to shout out, mention, reference, etc. before we get on out of here for another 7 days?
I just want to give a shout out to our friend Kat, who appeared on our Halloween special. Hear Us Scream Press, which is their collective of inclusive horror stories and narrative and stuff. They're doing a Kickstarter, and they're looking for supporters to get their content out there. So if you are a fan of horror and you want to support local, just give them a look at Hear Us Scream. And show your love to horror, show your love to local horror aficionados and fanatics and aspiring writers and such, and throw some dollary dues their way.
Do so, because Kat and the crew over there are creating some fantastic content, and it's awesome to see that brand go from strength to strength from where they were just first releasing with writers from all walks of life, but now they've set up their own publishing arm, which is, an awesome step to take. So check out Hear Us Scream on the socials and the internet, and throw some buckaroos their way if you can, because I'm sure Kat and the crew would appreciate that very much. But Miss Hart, that brings us to the end of THG 322. It's been a roller coaster. It's been a lot of Mario love. It's been a lot of nostalgia talk today, with some Sonic, some Street Fighter, some Mario. But we'll be back for episode 323 this time next week as well. But be sure to follow myself at Brendan8bit, Ali at Miss Ali Hart, and all of us at We Are 8bits. But until next time, 8-Bit Nation, it has been an absolute pleasure bringing you this episode to you. But we'll see you in the future, and until then, much love.
And stay hungry.
You've been listening to The Hungry Gamers, one of many gaming and geek culture related podcasts from the 8-Bit Collective over on 8bit.net. Check out more episodes on your podcast service of choice. And while you're there, please be sure to rate and subscribe. Until next time, boys and girls, stay hungry.